What's up guys, Yin Dragon here, and I welcome you all to my next weapon in the Payday 2 Armory. The next weapon is hailing from Mother Russia, the AKM. Of course, AKM stands for Automatic Kalashnikova. So here we go, we got it right here. And of course the AKM is essentially a modernized version of the AK-7 with at least lesser weight and probably a lot more easier to make and probably costing less. And of course this particular variant is the AKM-S, which I'm probably gonna butcher it in Russian, but the word modernize and folding, it's modernizovanная skladniya. That's the best I could do. So of course it's such a long word, but it stands for modernize, and the skladniya stands for folding. That's why you see the S in stock, so that's why it's called AKMS. So it's basically called Automatic Kalashnikov Modernized Folding. So as we look at the stats, we have 30 rounds, we have a total of 90, rate of fire of 561 RPM, which is the second slowest rate of fire in the AR category. Although, of course, it is much better than the MCAR, for sure. It has damage of 97, a accuracy of 60, stability of 44, concealment of 13, fret of 22, and reload time of 3.9 seconds. So this is seen to be, of course, a high damage assault rifle. And it's actually, and in terms of the rate of fire, it does have an okay time to kill, but considering the rate of fire, this does have the slowest time to kill for a high damage assault rifle. At least some of the other weapons, or even some of the battle rifles, just competes it out with this gun. But of course, however, also a little bit more history with the AKM is, well, these were of course mostly used during during the Cold War and the Vietnam War. Well, I think most of the time the NVA and the Viet Cong were probably using the Type 56, a Chinese variant of the AK-47. So anyway, let's actually look over the gun for a little more detail. So we can see of how old and classic this look is. It's probably one of the most iconic shape that you ever see for any gun, and a lot of people would, of course, as most American would probably put it, is the bad guy gun. You know, used by terrorists, Soviets, or resistance fighters all across the globe. And it's easy enough because, hell, this weapon is even put on a flag. And honestly, it shows how very iconic. Now, the weapon designer, Mikhail Kalashnikov, wasn't really thrilled that his weapon's reputation basically took 250,000 lives by his weapons. Not only the AK, but also probably other variants as well, and other weapons he made. As he clearly says that he did not design these weapons to take another country, but instead designed this particular weapon to defend his country, not invading. Well, can't really say the same, well, can't really say the same results for the Cold War. But anyway, let's actually look further detail at the gun. of course, as we look at the top of the, close to the muzzle flash, basically where the muzzle is, you can see the tip part is kind of a little bit cut out. I think it's probably one thing that helps to make it more accurate when firing in full auto. That's what I check a little bit on the Wikipedia. But also the AKM is actually weigh 1 less kilogram than the AK-47, so it should be much more lighter. Now as I take a closer look, we see there's like a little key piece right there that actually, of course, you could put put a clip on to add it as a sling, and you can actually put it where the little huge key piece around the button on that folding stock. And then I'll try to get it better because it's a little difficult with the analog stick. There we go. Trying to. Now you see there's a. You probably see, it's hard to see, but there's a star shape. I'm trying to get a light. There. Oh. You can see there's a. There we go. You can see there's a star piece right there, and a few numbers too. That is actually the factory receiver markings. This will tell how they were built, and it's pretty hard. And it says it looks like it says 1972. I'm presuming this is where this weapon was made, and probably tell about the factory number. And of course, this weapon shoots the 7.62 by 39mm round. Of course, this was their old. This was the Soviets' old intermediate caliber before they decide to replace it or look for another weapon and switch the caliber from 7.62 by 39 to the now, well, recently, well, now the more used still today during the 1970s was the 5.5 by 39mm round, and of course this was used on the AK-74. And we have the black mil-spec magazine, which are definitely very heavy mags, especially the way they have the curved shape. Though it doesn't look that very curved compared to what you see in pictures. Of course, you have the little magazine release button. And of course, we come to the folding stock, and you can see it's the Russians. Well, there's always something between the Russians and the Germans, as they like to copy from one another in terms of weapons or in terms of little features, such as, well, not little features, but definitely some things that work well for their weapons. So they figured it should work for them as well, and that is the folding stock. And you can tell, really recognize this style of stock here, this style of folding stock. The Russians borrowed this or copied from the German MP40, where of course you press this big button on the stock here, just right above the pistol grip to fold it, and it folds underneath, and it does not get in the way of the magazine. So you can actually fire this having the stock being folded. And of course, you can see there's a little, like a big button at the back of the at the back of the upper receiver that takes out the well, mostly take out the lower part of the gun. You can see more inside. Sadly, we can't do that in this game. Now we're looking on the right side. Now here's where the fire selector is, and it's very different. Now of course we have the, of course, the bolt and the charging handle, and we have the select fire. I presume by looking at the select fire, it's in semi-automatic. Now it's really hard to tell by a look at it, and it's your first time seeing this. But I did search it up a little bit before I start making this video on just make sure I don't get it incorrect where the placement of the fire selector is. And also the select fire also acts as a dust cover if you put it on safe. To put it on safe, you just have to pull this large piece, just push it up right into the upper receiver, and this will stop the charge hedge from coming all the way to the back. And it also prevents from getting debris in the gun, but the gun always seems to be reliable in any condition, whether it's sand, dirt, mud, snow, water. As for select fire, it's of course is in semi-automatic, and you may see there's like a little dent piece on when you operate select fire, but it's not really much of a dent. But that's all the way down. Oh wait, never mind. The middle one is actually fully automatic, and the one at the bottom is actually semi-automatic. I don't know if I said that already, but just want to make sure. It's just so weird. Usually I'm perfectly fine for having like full auto, then no semi-auto, no safety, full auto, and then single fire. I don't know. It just feels really weird. And of course we have all the way to nothing there, and then we have these of course range adjustment to rangefinder to adjust the range. That's the best spot I can get to it. And the of course the numbers on top represent meters. So we have like a 0 and then a 1. So it goes like either 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 on the left side, and on the right side it shows 1, 3, 5, and 7, which represents the meters that you want to adjust at the target. I mean, this is definitely common on the old AK rifles that you see. Of course, until the more modernized AKs, like the AK-12, still kept this feature, but instead of put it right in the middle of the gun, they put it all the way to the back. And definitely get used to seeing this type of model again, because they copy a lot of guns model in this game. The AK rifle, the RPK, the Bison, the Sega 12, and the AKM SU, which are cool. I will cover up the carbine variant in the, well, next video. Also a cool thing, AK has its own bling with the golden AKM. Now, they're essentially the same stats, except for the golden AKM has -2 concealment, so it's not really best. But you can tell by the look of it, looks actually nice. I think the only best part about this gun is just the diamonds cover on top of the wooden handguard. Well, the lower one, tiny as hell. Though I am not completely a big fan of this color for gold. It just looks like someone just coated it with yellow paint. So that's just... I mean, I would say it's not the worst type I've seen. And there seem to be like I don't know, some type of flowers onto the upper receiver, along with a few diamonds sharing in a row, and also at the back as well. Some writing there. I can't really tell. It's hard to see because that's how close I can zoom in. But definitely, COD Ghost had the worst look for the gold camo, or the gold weapon skin. It just looks like completely butter. So this what this weapon kind of reminds me quite a bit. And of course you get this, well, for free when you play on console. You get a right from the get-go. Of course, you had to join a Steam group, official Steam group for Payday 2 PC, and people got this from reaching 500,000 community members. So that was nice. Alright, that was a big talk. Now let's get to the attachment that it can offer. And believe me, this weapon has so many attachments. So we got the AK Slovak Dragon Barrel, a modern barrel, and the DMR kit. So we can actually see different looks of it. And you can see it's just changed the shape of the gun, including the gas piston. And the DMR kit is just, damn, like look at that. It's really insane how it looks. Of course, it does change the stats. You can put on any barrel extension you want. There's actually one cool, unique barrel extension which applied to all AK rifles. It also applied to at least to the SMGs and the LMG, being the RPK, the AKM SU, and the Bison. So this is the PBS suppressor, and you can only find the suppressor on the AK rifles. And I have to say, although the stat-wise doesn't look, it's not really the best option, but you don't damage. And sure, people will pick the bigger the better suppressor to be much more better, but in terms of the overall look, yeah, this looks fucking awesome. It looks badass. Plus, I always like to fit the attachment associated with nations of their weapons. You can put on any boost, any custom. Now the extra is a scope mount. Now this was one of the few things where I did not like where the sight they put on this weapon at launch, until of course a few updates later they put a scope mount, which I will get to it in a bit. Now we have 4 grips. We have quite a lot of grips here. So we have the railed wooden grip, battle-proven handguard, lightweight rail, the tactical Russian handguard, crab's rail, and the key rail. Sorry. Of course, I'm going to just make it a more modern look of the AK. So I'm going to increase the accuracy and stability across concealment, and some increase accuracy and concealment altogether. And some of this don't have any much drawbacks. I think the only drawbacks are is the lightweight well, the tactical Russian handguard, and the key mod rail, and that's just losing concealment. But it's really no big deal. Of course, you can put on any gadget you want. Now, as we put on the gadget, and it's actually mounted on the right side. Somehow it gives you a pigtail rail, probably better seeing with a compact laser module. Somehow they could able to put a pigtail rail on the side of a gun, which normally would be impossible to do with a wooden handguard. So if we were to have, let's say, the crab's rail, and then put this on, it actually looks good. It actually fits well with the gadget. It looks perfect. Of course, I'm not going to take that off. And then we have, of course, the grips, different types of grips. We have the AK rubber grip, the AK plastic grip, the AK wood grip, and the aluminum grip. Of course, this applies to all AK rifle, the AK family, including the Sega 12 shotgun. And also do it, however, if you're not counting the Dragunov, because it's not really much of a Kalashnikov weapon, because the operating mechanism are quite different. But I still find they're kind of close together. We have a magazine option. There's 3 different types. A quad stag mag, which is basically their version of the multi-AR-15s or M16 staying magazine with their own type magazine. We have the low drag. Definitely more used for modern AKs. Looks probably more polymer and more lightweight. And of course, we have the speed pull mag, which is incorrect, but This, but however, the magazine for it is actually the same magazine used for the AK-74. So I basically almost transformed this gun to an AK-74 with this magazine. We have, of course, sights. Now here's one I really don't like, but I'll get to the sight later. You can put any sight you want, and you can choose different stocks. You have the contractor stock with a lot more stock around, but there is three unique attachments to it, and that is the skeletal stock, which it just changed to a different type of folding stock. However, this is probably recognizable that you see in the AKM. You also have the wooden sniper, which it's almost the same stock that you see on the Dragunov. However, this one, the classic stock, is beautiful. Now that is the regular AKM, which too bad they could have gone for the base version of the game, but I'm glad it didn't because this does give you a bit more attachments, or at least better stats. And I have to say, it looks freaking damn cool. Of course, you also get that little, clip that you could put a sling on. And as we look on the right side, I don't know, this looks freaking damn cool. Much better. Of course, you can try and make other variants out of it. If I include the modern variant and a rail foregrip, this basically transforms the gun to a AK-104 or AK-104. Well, minus the wooden handguard. That's not plastic. That's kind of cool. Okay, I gotta keep the stock here because it looks so fancy. Alright. As for the sight itself, look where the sight has been placed. It placed all the way up here. And I already discussed this with the Mac 11, with the sociopath, with Jack and the Sociopath video. I do not like where it placed. To me, this looks like more obstructive than the iron sights are. But if we include on the gadget, look where it is now. It is much, much better, and we actually see there's some writing to it. It says KB04. It says AK mount. So this is a scope mount specifically designed for AKs, fitting well for its due to lack of pigtail rails, and of course we see the top, it does contain pigtail rails, and it fits perfectly with this sight. Sadly, there's no Russian Soviet optic in Payday 2, so the only closest thing I got to a Cobra sight is the Seymour sight. So this is the closest thing I can get to, which just looks really nice. Looks really well. And of course, you do get extra more stability at a cost of concealment if you equip the sight and the scope mount. So it's actually not bad to have. Of course, the scope mount also applied to the other rifles, the AKM SU and the Sega 12. Sadly, none for the Bison, the RPK, because the Bison already has its own scope mount built in once you just equip a sight, and you can't aim with the RPK, which sucks. And, well, now I'm going to show you my fully decked out AKM. You can see my stat looks way better. Of course, it would be much even more with the skills I have. And you can see, it doesn't look that, well, classy, I should say. Especially with all the stuff I have added. Very more modern to it. I mean, this is probably the more modern AK you probably see in today's standards. But of course, The more modernized one would be the AK-12 or AK-15. Well, that was a big talk, but after all, this weapon does have a huge history, and its legacy still grows for many generations to come. Well, now let's take it to the firing range. Hey, welcome back, guys, to the firing range. I'm about to fire off with the AKM. But I do have to say, one thing I should probably do for now, for every video, is look at the iron sight first. Or at least I should sky to make it more clear. As for the iron sights, they're pretty small. I mean, they're probably not good for very sniping range, but they're definitely one of the more clear iron sights. And normally I wasn't a big fan of it at the time, and of course when you put it on the sight, it's just terrible. This is one of the few guns where I just rock the iron sights and not putting a sight on. So, let's get this the AKM loaded and fire off this classic Soviet rifle. Alright, going in single fire. Not a bad grouping for semi-auto. Looks pretty good. I'll finish up with full auto. Of course, shoots fine. Now test 2. Of course, I am going to let it go full auto without doing anything. And let it go free. Okay, it was perfect time that bullets were kind of disappearing, but you can see how the recoil goes up. They went one side and went back up, and then kind of continued to being vertical and stops right here. So just like the Akimbo MP5s, it just stays at the very limit. So we'll move on to test 3, where I'm now controlling it. Okay, I was out of ammo, but of course, that's perfectly fine. It was 3 rounds anyway. You can see I tried to control it, and then it went down, and not this right side. So it's definitely one of more interesting of trying to interesting weapons to control the recoil. So it definitely hit there. So I try to make it here in the center, but even when I try to pull it down, I kind of realized it goes vertical, but then it goes like that. Try and throw a curve on me. Well, that's it for much of the test. I'll show you the fully decked out AKM. Hey, welcome back, guys, and here's my totally decked out AKM for loud. And we're going loud now. Of course, I have a much better type of grouping thanks to the accuracy, and helped me that the AK doesn't really bounce a lot, even in single shot, because it does bounce a lot if you don't have much stability. Alright, remaining rounds. Of course, when fired full auto like that, the recoil just goes, you know, up a little bit zigzag, but then kind of stops doing that as it comes down. Alright, here we go with test 2. Let's see how it goes all the way. Just making sure I don't cross it. Alright, going hot. So the recoil definitely has some unpredictable recoil profile, especially when you go up and then it stops right here, then it just shoots some side to side like this. Alright, now we're gonna see for test free if it does anything different. Going hot. Well, you can see the grouping is definitely way better than the base AKM. Of course, I have to be careful with that gun. Does like to go a bit, jump up to the right for like 2 shots. And it's a lot of improvement. Definitely we would ding at the snipers at distance. And of course, here's how the speed pull mag looks. It's definitely crazy. So it's a pretty fun weapon. It's much more easier to control thanks to the rate of fire being so low. You have way better time to control it as opposed to a higher rate of fire like a FAMAS, which makes it quite difficult to stay on target during a full auto. Okay, before I make my conclusion, I should probably show off a bit with the bling, the golden AKM. So, in a minute. Hey, welcome back, guys, and well, here's our last weapon I could show. I mean, I do have a fully decked out golden AKM, but the looks of the model are really, really old. So I don't want to show it of how abomination that weapon would have been. But as you can see, the lighting does shine a little bit. Depends where you are. If I go in indoor, it's just, I mean, it doesn't look pretty good. I say the wooden handguard is probably the only shiny factor here. But outside, hitting by the sun, yeah, it's okay. Of course, the only purpose that people like to go in AKM is not in terms of, well, firing the weapon, it's just the way it looks. Alright, let me just play it for fun. We also know the charging handle is not even golden. Missed an opportunity. Is it just me, or did that recoil went all the way up and big to the right? Like it didn't do like try to go up and then hit one right and then go up again. That's kind of weird. Okay, let me try this again while trying to control it this time. Yeah, trying to stay on target all that is pretty damn challenging. So I don't know, did they make this worse? Hold on, let me just get some more ammunition. It doesn't make sense. Okay, let me try it. For sure. And plus the eyesight should be much more clear now since it's, well, yellow instead of black. Right now it went up and a little bit to the left and go all the way to the right. It stops right here and it does this. Okay, I'm gonna try one more time to see if the recoil is the same. And by the way, I am not controlling it with the right analog stick. Now decides to go a bit towards to the left. And back all the way around here. Almost doing like a C shape. Okay, so that's quite Odd. Well, that's the golden AKM for you. Now on to well, my thoughts on the weapon. Surprise, surprise! It just crashed on me again once I just trying to quit the safe house. Like, how can you let it crash? Like, that freaking old safe house has been there since launch. Like, you don't even get to play as much around it. Like, there's nothing much to interact with. And somehow that crashes it? That clearly shows the new safe house was just not ready to be added to consoles. If you get crashes on the old safe house, put the new safe house in. But overall, the AKM is definitely, well, I wouldn't say the much worst weapons out of the bunch due to the rate of fire. It just gets outclassed by a few others for a few reasons. I do think this probably has the best accurate of all the, well, not of all, the high damage ARs. Some can actually rivals it and compete with it. And sure, it has a DMR kit, but our weapon has DMR kit as well, and they're much more better. But due to the DMR kit being nerfed, it's not really viable for this weapon. But I do have to say, just using the base of the damage, not the DMR, though I do think the M16 and the AK-12 are much better than this gun, and even a few other weapons such as the FAL, the G3, and the Scar H have their own charms as well. Well, the AKM just doesn't really have much. And I'll also show you how terrible my AKM is. It may look, well, the stat looks not bad, except for the 12 ammo because I have a DMR kit. Look what I have done to the goldness. It's completely gone. The only goldness I see is the upper receiver and the lower receiver, along with the magazine release switch and the trigger guard and the trigger itself. I have basically killed the goldness out of this gun, but I'm completely fine with it. It's just a damn shame that the attachments can never get gold. It will be kind of nice to add. After all, they did with weapon skins, where if you put a weapon skin on that gun, it also covers up the attachment as well. But in terms of other comparison to the other weapons, we also compare it to the AK-74 because, well, it's a little more different. It's a medium damage AR, has a much higher rate of fire. But as we look at the other high damage weapons to offer, I think a lot of them are at the bottom of the list here. G3. Sure, the G3 has much better stats by default. And of course you can make it with better attachments, but the main feature of it is has at least 10 more ammo and shoots a bit faster. It almost has 100 more rate of fire, and then the FAL is literally the same thing, except it shoots a bit faster to at least close to 700 RPM. And then the Scar H adds even better. The only thing it doesn't have is the magazine. That's what makes it prevent it from being so good. And then we have these two kickers here, what I think triumphs. With the M16, by looks of the stats, yes, the M16 looks kind of crap, but considering that you have so much attachments to make it seem better, it's no slouch. And lastly, the AK-12. My god, look at the stats. I don't give a damn about the threat. This is even better. Like, this literally is a pay-to-win a modernized version and upgraded to be much more better than the older AK. It's insane. I do love the AK-12, but seeing the stats between the two, it shows I almost completely forgot the AKM was in this game. Yeah, I play with this weapon more than I ever do with the AKM. And you can tell by the rate of fire, it definitely is close, but the AKM shoots faster. But to me, a more appropriate rate of fire, at least for it, is to increase it to at least 600 RPM. I would think this would be a lot better for a buff for this gun, considering that the AK-12 and a few other AR beats it out because it has the slowest time to kill. It does not bring anything much to the table. But overall, it's an interesting weapon. But I would love to give it a little bit more love than it. So thank you for watching, everyone. Until next time, I'll cover up the carbine variant of the AKM, being the AKM SU or AKMU, depends on the variant. Till then, farewell and have a wonderful day, everyone.